Think about this for a moment. Every single person in your life, right now, is treating you exactly the way you've allowed them to. That may be hard to hear, but it's the truth. If someone constantly disrespects you, it's because somewhere along the line, you showed them that was acceptable. If someone takes advantage of your kindness, it's because you've never drawn the line where kindness ends and self-respect begins. People will push, they will test, and they will take, but only as much as you permit. The reality is, you are the standard. You are the rule book. You are the silent contract that tells people this is how far you can go, and this is where it stops. And if you've never set that contract, if you've never made it clear, guess what? They're writing the rules for you. Here's the tough part. It's easy to blame others. It's easy to point the finger and say, they treated me badly, they walked all over me, they didn't respect me. But ask yourself, what did you do about it? Did you allow it once? Did you excuse it twice? Did you let it slide because you didn't want to create conflict? Every time you let something go, you taught them a lesson, and the lesson was that you would accept less than you deserve. But here's the good news. Just as you've taught people to undervalue you, you can retrain them to respect you. You can rewrite the rules, you can raise the standard, and when you do, you'll see something incredible happen. People who truly value you will rise to meet it, and those who don't will fall away. So the real question is, what are you teaching the world about how to treat you? Because whether you know it or not, every moment you spend with someone is either showing them your worth or discounting it. And the only person who decides which one it is you. Every relationship you have, whether it's with a partner, a friend, a coworker, or even a stranger, runs on an unspoken agreement. That agreement isn't written down. It's not something you sign, it's something you create, moment by moment, in the way you respond to people. The truth is this: you teach people how to treat you. Every time you react, every time you allow, every time you let something slide or enforce a boundary, you're sending a message about what's acceptable and what isn't. And people will follow the standard you set. Let's be honest, most people don't wake up thinking, how can I disrespect this person today? But people are human. They test limits. They push buttons. They try to see how much they can get away with. Not always out of malice, but out of habit, conditioning, or simply self-interest. If you allow it, they learn they can do it again. If you stop it, they learn you won't tolerate it. That's simple. Think about it. When a child throws a tantrum in the grocery store and the parent gives in, what happens? The child learns, if I scream loud enough, I'll get what I want. That lesson gets reinforced every time the parent caves. Adults aren't much different. If your friend is always late and you say nothing, you're teaching them your time is invaluable. If a coworker constantly interrupts you in meetings and you stay quiet, you're teaching them your voice doesn't matter. If a partner crosses a line and you forgive without change, you're teaching them there are no real consequences for hurting you. The dangerous part is that we often mistake silence for kindness. We tell ourselves, I don't want to make a scene. I don't want to upset anyone. I'll just let it go. But silence isn't kindness. Silence is permission, and permission breeds patterns. The longer you allow a behavior, the harder it becomes to stop it. Because by then, you've already trained the other person to believe it's normal. Now here's where it gets uncomfortable. Teaching people how to treat you starts with how you treat yourself. If you constantly put yourself last, if you talk down to yourself, if you neglect your own needs, why would anyone else treat you any differently? People mirror what you model. If they see you disrespect yourself, they'll subconsciously think it's okay to do the same. Respect isn't demanded, it's demonstrated. You have to set the tone. The way you carry yourself, the way you speak, the way you enforce your boundaries tells the world, this is my standard. It doesn't mean you have to be aggressive or confrontational. It means you have to be consistent. If your standard is respect, then disrespect, no matter how small, cannot be overlooked. If your standard is honesty, then lies, no matter how convenient, cannot be excused. If your standard is effort, then bare minimum behavior, no matter how familiar, cannot be rewarded. Of course, this isn't easy. Teaching people how to treat you means risking discomfort. It means having hard conversations. It means saying no when you'd rather say yes, just to keep the peace. It means walking away from relationships that refuse to meet your standard. But ask yourself, what's worse, temporary discomfort or a lifetime of disrespect? Here's the powerful part. Once you begin teaching people how to treat you, you'll notice something shift. The people who genuinely care about you will adjust. They'll rise to the standard. They'll respect the boundary. Why? Because they value the relationship. The people who resist, who get angry, who push back, they're not angry because you did something wrong. They're angry because your new standard exposes their unwillingness to change. And that's your filter. The wrong people will weed themselves out, leaving room for the right people to step in. Think of it like training a muscle. At first, setting standards feels heavy. It feels awkward. You question yourself. You wonder if you're being too much. But the more you practice, the stronger you get. And soon, it's not even a question. It's just who you are. You no longer beg for respect. You command it by the way you live. And let's clear up one more thing. Teaching people how to treat you doesn't mean controlling others. You can't control anyone. What you can control is access. You can control who gets to stay in your life and under what terms. You can't make someone respect you, but you can decide that if they don't get a front row seat in your story. That's power. Look back on your own life. How many times have you known deep down that someone was crossing a line but you stayed quiet? How many times have you minimized your own needs just to keep someone else comfortable? How many times have you said it's fine when it wasn't? Every one of those moments was a lesson you taught, and people learned it. But here's the best part. Just as you've trained people to disrespect your boundaries, you can retrain them to honor them. It starts the moment you decide, no more. No more excuses. No more silence. No more lowering your standard just to keep the wrong people close. You start small, speaking up when someone interrupts you, holding people accountable when they're late, saying no when something doesn't align with your values. Over time, those small decisions create a new contract. And that contract says, I value myself, I respect myself, and if you want to be in my life, you will too. Because at the end of the day, people are always watching. They're watching how you respond, how you allow, how you react, and they will always follow the cues you give them. The question is, are you teaching them to rise to your standard, or are you teaching them to fall beneath it? You have more control than you think. You are not powerless. You are not a victim of everyone else's behavior. You are the one setting the tone. You are the one writing the unspoken rules. And the moment you choose to teach differently, people will treat you differently. So stop waiting for respect to just appear. Stop hoping people will magically know your worth. Show them. Teach them. Set the standard so high that the only people who remain in your life are the ones willing to meet it. That's not arrogance. That's self-respect. And when you live that way, you don't just change how people treat you. You change your entire life. Boundaries are one of the most misunderstood concepts in personal growth. When people hear the word, they immediately think of walls. They picture shutting people out, cutting people off, or creating barriers that separate them from everyone else. But boundaries are not walls. Boundaries are standards. They are the rules of engagement you set for how others are allowed to interact with you. Without them, your relationships become chaotic, one-sided, and exhausting. With them, your relationships become clear, respectful, and healthy. The truth is, every single person has boundaries, whether they realize it or not. The difference is that some people set them consciously, while others let them be dictated by circumstances. If you don't set your own boundaries, life will set them for you, and it usually won't be in your favor. People will take as much as you allow, not because they're inherently bad, but because human beings naturally test limits. If you never draw the line, no one knows where it is, and when people don't know where the line is, they'll cross it intentionally or unintentionally. Think about a game without rules. Imagine playing basketball, but nobody knows what counts as a foul, what the boundaries of the court are, or even how many points a shot is worth. The game would be chaos. People would argue constantly. Everyone would be frustrated. That's exactly what relationships without boundaries look like. Chaotic, unclear, and often unfair. Boundaries don't ruin the game. They make it possible to actually play. But here's the important distinction. Boundaries are not meant to shut people out. They're meant to show people how to stay in your life. They're not punishment. They're guidance. They're not about control. They're about clarity. Boundaries say, if you want to be in my life, here's how it works. Here's how I expect to be treated. Here's what I will and will not accept. And here's the thing. The people who truly care about you will respect them. The ones who don't, they were never meant to stay. The problem is that so many of us are afraid to set boundaries because we don't want to be seen as difficult, selfish, or cold. We'd rather overextend ourselves than risk conflict. We convince ourselves that being easygoing makes us more lovable. But being boundaryless doesn't make you lovable. It makes you resentful. It makes you exhausted. It makes you a magnet for takers, manipulators, and people who thrive on using others. And then you wonder why you feel drained, disrespected, or taken advantage of. The absence of boundaries isn't kindness. It's self-betrayal. And here's the irony. The more you betray yourself by not setting standards, the more bitterness you feel toward the very people you're trying to please. You end up resenting them, not because they crossed the line, but because you never told them where the line was in the first place. Boundaries are not walls, because walls keep everyone out. Boundaries, on the other hand, create the conditions for closeness. Think about it. How can you have an honest, healthy relationship if you're constantly swallowing your needs, your truth, your discomfort, just to avoid upsetting someone else? That's not intimacy. That's performance. A real intimacy requires honesty. Real honesty requires boundaries. And boundaries aren't just about saying no. They're also about saying yes to what aligns with your values. They're about prioritizing your time, energy, and emotional well-being. For example, a boundary might be, I don't answer work emails after 7 p.m. That's not selfish. It's a standard that protects your personal time. Another might be, I don't engage in gossip. That's not cold. It's a standard that preserves your integrity. Another might be, if you yell at me, I will leave the conversation until we can talk respectfully. That's not dramatic. It's a standard that demands respect. Boundaries don't push people away. They filter people in. The people who belong in your life will adapt to your standards. They will appreciate the clarity. They'll even trust you more because they know where you stand. The people who fight your boundaries are usually the ones who benefited from you not having any. And if someone leaves because you set a boundary, what you lost wasn't love, it was manipulation disguised as connection. Another misconception about boundaries is that they're rigid, like walls carved in stone. But boundaries can be flexible. They can adjust depending on the relationship, the circumstance, and your growth. For example, the boundaries you set at work may be different from the ones you set with your partner. The ones you set in your 20s may evolve as you grow in your 30s or 40s. Boundaries are living, breathing standards. They're not about rigidity. They're about alignment. And here's what's powerful. Boundaries are an act of self-respect. When you say, this is what I will and will not accept, you're telling yourself and the world, I matter. My needs matter. My time matters. My peace matters. And when you live that way, you not only protect yourself, you also inspire others. Because when people see you respecting yourself, they learn how to respect themselves too. Boundaries are also one of the purest forms of love. When you set boundaries, you're saying to the other person, I value this relationship enough to protect it from resentment. Without boundaries, relationships rot. With boundaries, they thrive. That's because everyone knows the rules. Everyone knows where they stand. Boundaries create safety, not just for you, but for the relationship itself. Now, yes, boundaries can make people uncomfortable, especially if they're not used to you having them. If you've been the yes person your entire life, the moment you start saying no, some people will resist. They'll call you selfish. They'll say you've changed. And they're right. You have changed. You've changed from someone who allowed everything to someone who values yourself enough to demand better. And that's not selfish. That's survival. So ask yourself, where in your life are you building walls instead of boundaries? Where are you cutting people off completely because you're afraid of setting standards? Where are you avoiding conflict but creating resentment? And more importantly, where are you betraying yourself by pretending you're okay with things you're not? Boundaries are not about closing yourself off from the world. They're about opening yourself up in a way that is safe, sustainable, and true. They're about creating relationships that are rooted in respect instead of resentment. They're about making sure you never lose yourself in the process of loving someone else. At the end of the day, boundaries are not a prison. They are freedom. Freedom from being used. Freedom from being drained. Freedom from living a life dictated by other people's expectations. Boundaries don't keep the right people out. They keep the wrong people from staying in. They don't limit your love. They protect it. And when you start living with that kind of standard, you stop attracting chaos and start creating peace. Because people will always test you. They'll always see how far they can go. But once you've drawn your lines clearly, firmly, and consistently, they'll know exactly where you stand. And that's when everything changes, not just how people treat you, but how you see yourself. Respect is one of those things everyone wants, but not everyone knows how to get. We all want to feel valued, appreciated, and taken seriously. But here's the hard truth. Respect doesn't start with other people. It starts with you. The way you carry yourself, the way you speak to yourself, the way you allow others to treat you, sets the tone for everything else. If you don't respect yourself, why would anyone else? If you're constantly putting yourself down, dismissing your own needs, and lowering your own standards, you're teaching the world to do the same. Think about someone you deeply respect. Maybe it's a leader, a teacher, a mentor, or even a friend. Why do you respect them? Chances are it's not just about what they've achieved, but how they hold themselves. They have a presence. They walk into a room with confidence. They speak with clarity. They don't over-explain. They don't beg for validation. They live in alignment with their values. That's what commands respect. Not because they demanded it, but because they embodied it. Respect is an inside job. It's not about waiting for other people to recognize your worth. It's about recognizing it yourself first. If you look in the mirror every morning and only see flaws, if you talk to yourself with words you'd never say to a friend, if you constantly sacrifice your needs just to please others, then you're undermining your own respect before the world even gets a chance. Respect yourself enough to speak kindly to yourself. Respect yourself enough to honor your boundaries. Respect yourself enough to show up fully, not half-hidden, not apologizing for your existence. And here's something powerful. Self-respect isn't about perfection. It's not about pretending you have it all together. It's about integrity. It's about doing what you said you'd do. It's about showing up on time. It's about keeping your promises to yourself. Every time you keep a commitment, no matter how small, you build self-respect. And the more you respect yourself, the less you'll tolerate disrespect from others. But let's flip it. What happens when you don't respect yourself? You settle. You settle for relationships that drain you. You settle for jobs that suffocate you. You settle for friends who mock you, partners who mistreat you, and environments that diminish you, not because you deserve less, but because you've convinced yourself that's all you're worthy of. And when you live that way, you teach people, this is how I expect to be treated. Respect also shows up in how you carry your boundaries. If you set a boundary but constantly break it yourself, people learn they don't have to take you seriously. For example, if you say, I won't tolerate disrespect, but then laugh off someone insulting you, you've already undermined your own standard. If you say, I'm done with this relationship, but keep answering their calls, you've shown that your words are empty. Self-respect means aligning your actions with your standards. If you say it, you mean it. If you said it, you enforce it. And let's address another misconception. Respect is not about being liked. Some people won't like you when you start respecting yourself. They'll call you selfish, cold, or too much. That's not because you've done anything wrong. It's because your new standard exposes their old comfort. People who benefited from your lack of boundaries will resist when you start living with self-respect. And that's okay. Respect isn't about pleasing everyone. It's about honoring yourself. There's also a quiet strength in respect. You don't need to scream, argue, or force people to see your worth. Respect isn't loud. Respect is consistent. It's in how you walk away from situations that no longer serve you without announcing it to the world. It's in how you say no calmly without guilt or apology. It's in how you show up authentically without shrinking to make others comfortable. That quiet consistency is far more powerful than any loud demand. Respect also shows up in how you invest in yourself. Do you feed your mind with growth or negativity? Do you take care of your body, your health, your energy? Do you surround yourself with people who uplift you or people who tear you down? Self-respect is not just an internal attitude. It's reflected in the choices you make every day. If you want the world to treat you like you matter, start by treating yourself like you matter. Another piece of this puzzle is communication. How you speak reveals how much you respect yourself. Do you over-apologize for existing? Do you use language that diminishes you? Like, I'm sorry, this is probably a stupid question. Or I don't know if this makes sense, but that kind of language signals to others that you doubt your own worth. Respectful communication doesn't mean arrogance. It means confidence. It's saying what you mean without minimizing yourself. It's holding eye contact. It's speaking with clarity, not hesitation. And here's where it all comes together. When you respect yourself, you automatically set the standard for how others treat you. If you carry yourself with dignity, people notice. If you keep your word, people trust you. If you stand firm on your boundaries, people learn to honor them. Respect is contagious. It starts inside, but it radiates outward until it reshapes every interaction you have. Of course, this doesn't mean everyone will treat you perfectly. There will always be people who test your limits, people who disrespect you no matter how strong your self-respect is. But the difference is this. When you respect yourself, you won't stay in those situations. You won't chase people who devalue you. You won't argue endlessly to prove your worth. You'll simply step back, protect your peace, and move forward with people who can rise to your standard. At the end of the day, respect is not something you wait for, beg for, or demand. Respect is something you decide to embody. It's in the choices you make, the boundaries you enforce, and the way you carry yourself. And once you start living with that level of self-respect, you'll notice that everything else begins to align. People respond differently, opportunities open up, your relationships shift, not because the world suddenly changed, but because you did. Respect starts with you. And once you truly get that, no one, not a partner, not a boss, not a friend, can ever convince you that you're worth less than you know yourself to be. You become unshakable. You become undeniable, and you stop living at the mercy of others' opinions and start living in the power of your own truth. One of the biggest reasons people end up feeling drained, disrespected, or taken advantage of is because they continue to reward bad behavior. Most of the time, it's not intentional. It comes from wanting to keep the peace, avoid conflict, or maintain a relationship. But every time you excuse, overlook, or tolerate poor treatment, you're essentially teaching the other person that their behavior is acceptable, and even worse, that they'll be rewarded for it. And once people realize there are no consequences for mistreating you, they won't stop. Why would they? They're getting exactly what they want without ever having to change. Bad behavior doesn't always look extreme. It's not just about outright abuse, yelling, or obvious disrespect. It shows up in subtle ways. The friend who constantly cancels last minute but still expects you to be available. The coworker who never pulls their weight but knows you'll pick up the slack. The partner who dismisses your feelings but still expects your loyalty. These small behaviors, when tolerated, become patterns, and patterns shape the dynamic of every relationship. The truth is, people repeat what gets rewarded. Think about training a dog. If every time the dog jumps on you, you give it attention, even if it's negative attention, you've just reinforced the behavior. Humans aren't all that different. If every time someone treats you poorly, you still answer the phone, still show up, still give them your energy, then you've taught them that their behavior has no cost. you've actually made it easier for them to continue. So why do we reward bad behavior? Often it's because we're afraid of loss. We tell ourselves, if I confront them, they'll leave. Or if I stand up for myself, it will cause a fight. So instead, we swallow the hurt. We smile and we pretend it's fine. But here's the reality: by avoiding short-term discomfort, you're guaranteeing long-term pain. You're choosing temporary peace over permanent respect. And in the process, you're sacrificing your own dignity. Another reason we reward bad behavior is because we underestimate our own worth. Deep down, if you don't believe you deserve better, you'll settle for less. You'll make excuses for people who hurt you. You'll rationalize their behavior. They didn't mean it. They're just stressed. They'll change. Eventually. And while compassion is valuable, compassion without accountability is self-destruction. Caring about someone doesn't mean tolerating their mistreatment. Now, stopping the cycle requires courage. It means breaking your own patterns as much as breaking theirs. You can't keep giving second chances to someone who's shown you no willingness to change. You can't keep investing in relationships where the other person takes and takes without giving back. It's not about punishing them, it's about protecting yourself. So how do you stop rewarding bad behavior? First, you have to recognize it. Pay attention to how you feel after interactions. Do you feel drained, disrespected, or diminished? That's a signal something is off. Second, you must set consequences. A consequence isn't about revenge. It's about alignment. If someone repeatedly shows up late, stop waiting on them. If someone dismisses your feelings, stop sharing so vulnerably. If someone consistently crosses your boundaries, reduce their access to you. The consequence doesn't have to be dramatic, but it has to be consistent. And here's the key: follow through is everything. The moment you set a consequence but fail to enforce it, you've rewarded the behavior again. For example, if you say, if you speak to me like that, I will leave the conversation, but then stay and argue, you've undermined yourself. Consistency is what teaches people you mean what you say. It's what rewrites the pattern. Stopping the reward also means stop giving your energy where it's not valued. Attention is a form of currency. Every time you respond to a text, engage in an argument, or show up despite being mistreated, you're paying someone with your energy. Ask yourself, is this investment bringing me growth, respect, and reciprocity? Or is it draining me and reinforcing bad behavior? Sometimes the best way to stop rewarding is to withdraw completely. Not out of spite, but out of self-respect. Now, some people will resist when you stop rewarding them. They'll push harder. They'll test you. Why? Because you've trained them to expect a certain dynamic, and now you're changing the rules. Think about a vending machine. If you press the button and don't get your snack, you don't just walk away, you shake the machine, you press the button harder. People are the same. When you stop rewarding their behavior, at first they'll escalate, but if you stay firm, eventually they'll realize the old patterns no longer work. That's when they either adjust or they exit your life. Either outcome protects your peace. And let's be clear, stopping the reward doesn't make you harsh or unkind. It makes you fair to yourself. It means you're no longer paying with your energy for behavior that devalues you. It means you're no longer choosing comfort over dignity. It means you're teaching people that access to you is a privilege, not a right. Think about the kind of life you want to live. Do you want to spend it constantly cleaning up after others, constantly explaining yourself, constantly tolerating behavior that chips away at your self-worth? Or do you want to spend it surrounded by people who respect you, who meet your energy with effort, who value your presence as much as you value theirs? The difference lies in what you reward. Every relationship is a mirror. If you want respect, you must stop rewarding disrespect. If you want honesty, you must stop rewarding lies. If you want effort, you must stop rewarding laziness. You can't keep feeding what you're trying to starve. At the end of the day, people are going to treat you based on what you tolerate, not what you deserve. And the moment you stop rewarding bad behavior, everything changes. You'll lose some people, yes, but you'll gain back your peace, your dignity, and your sense of self-worth. And the people who remain, the ones who rise to meet your standard, Those are the people who belong in your life. So the choice is yours. Keep rewarding bad behavior and live in cycles of frustration, or stop the reward and start commanding the respect you deserve. Because respect isn't given, it's taught. And the first lesson is simple. You will no longer pay with your time, energy, or love for behavior that devalues you. That's not punishment. That's self-respect. And that is the foundation of every strong, healthy, lasting relationship. The quality of your life will always reflect the standards you set for yourself. Every choice you make, every relationship you keep, every opportunity you take or walk away from is guided by the level of standards you're willing to hold. If your standards are low, your life will mirror that. You'll tolerate mediocrity, accept poor treatment, and settle for less than you deserve. But the moment you raise your standards, everything shifts. You begin to demand more from yourself, expect more from others, and attract a life that matches the value you've finally recognized within yourself. Standards are not about arrogance or thinking you're better than anyone else. They are about alignment. They define what you're willing to allow and what you refuse to tolerate. They create the blueprint for the life you live. If your standard is honesty, then dishonesty has no room around you. If your standard is respect, then disrespect has no seat at your table. If your standard is growth, then stagnation cannot stay in your circle. You don't have to scream it from the rooftops. You simply live it, and people adjust accordingly. The truth is, you've already set standards, whether you realize it or not. The way people treat you right now is the result of the standard you've taught them. The habits you keep, the boundaries you enforce, the things you let slide, all of it reflects the level you're operating at. If you're unhappy with where you are, it's not because life is against you. It's because your standards are too low for the life you want to create. Raising your standards begins with you. It's about taking a hard look at the places you've compromised. Where have you said it's fine when it wasn't? Where have you allowed people to take more than they give? Where have you accepted less effort than you put in? Where have you lowered the bar just to keep the wrong people close? Every time you drop your standards, you drop your life. And the price you pay is not just external, it's internal. You chip away at your self-worth, your confidence, and your peace. When you raise your standards, you start to shift your identity. You begin to see yourself differently. You stop saying, I'll take what I can get, and start saying, I know what I deserve. You stop explaining your worth and start embodying it. And the people around you will notice. Some will rise to meet you. Others will resist. But that's the beauty of it. Your standards filter your life. They reveal who belongs and who doesn't. This isn't just about relationships. It's about every area of your life. If your standard for health is low, you'll neglect your body and wonder why you're tired. If your standard for finances is low, you'll overspend, undersave, and wonder why you're always stressed. If your standard for career is low, you'll accept jobs that suffocate you and bosses who don't value you. Raising your standards means refusing to accept just enough to get by. It means demanding more effort, more growth, more fulfillment, not from others first, but from yourself. And that's the key. Raising your standards isn't just about telling other people how to treat you. It's about raising the standard of how you treat yourself. Do you honor your word to yourself? Do you take care of your mental and physical health? Do you push yourself to grow? Or do you stay stuck in comfort because it's easy? People are watching, whether you realize it or not. If you don't take yourself seriously, no one else will. If you don't respect your own time, no one else will. If you don't value your own effort, no one else will. Now let's be real, raising your standards will cost you. It will cost you relationships that can't survive at that level. It will cost you comfort because growth is uncomfortable. It will cost you excuses because you'll no longer accept them from yourself. But the price you pay for low standards is far greater. Low standards cost you your self-respect. They cost you your energy. They cost you your peace. High standards may feel uncomfortable at first, but they lead to freedom. The more you raise your standards, the more your life expands. Suddenly, opportunities that seemed impossible start to appear because you're no longer operating from a place of scarcity. You stop chasing people in situations that drain you because you understand your time and energy are valuable. You attract people who share your values, who respect your boundaries, and who challenge you to grow because you've made it clear that's the only kind of energy you allow. And here's the most powerful part. Raising your standards is not a one-time decision. It's a daily choice. Every morning you wake up, you decide what you will and won't accept. You decide whether you'll honor your word to yourself or break it. You decide whether you'll let fear and comfort hold you back or step into courage. Every choice is a reflection of your standard, and the accumulation of those choices becomes your life. So ask yourself, what standard are you living by today? Is it the standard of someone who respects themselves, values their time, and demands growth? Or is it the standard of someone who settles, compromises, and makes excuses? Because the standard you choose will shape everything, from the people you allow into your circle to the opportunities that show up at your door. Raising your standards doesn't mean life suddenly becomes easy. It means life becomes meaningful. It means you stop wasting time on what drains you and start investing in what builds you. It means you no longer chase validation because you live in alignment with your values. It means you create a life you're proud of, not because someone else handed it to you, but because you refuse to accept less than you deserve. At the end of the day, your standards are your compass. They determine the direction of your life. And the higher you set them, the higher your life will rise. So don't be afraid to raise the bar. Don't be afraid to lose people who can't meet it. Don't be afraid to demand more from yourself and your world. Because the moment you raise your standards, you raise your life. And once you taste that level of alignment, peace, and respect, you'll never go back. Here's the truth you can't escape. People will treat you how you let them. Every boundary you set, every standard you raise, every act of self-respect you live by is shaping the way the world responds to you. If you've been waiting for others to suddenly start respecting you, valuing you, or treating you better without changing anything on your end, you'll be waiting forever. Respect isn't handed out. It's taught, and the teacher is you. Stop making excuses for people who show you through their actions that they don't value you. Stop lowering your standards just to keep the wrong people close. Stop rewarding behavior that drains you of your peace, your dignity, and your worth. Because every time you accept less than you deserve, you're telling the world, this is all I'm worth. And that couldn't be further from the truth. The standard you set is not just about how others treat you. It's about how you see yourself. When you respect yourself, others follow suit. When you raise your standards, your life rises with them. When you enforce your boundaries, you don't lose people, you lose the chaos, and what you gain is clarity, peace, and relationships built on mutual respect. So here's your choice. Keep living at the level of comfort, compromise, and low standards, or step into the higher version of yourself. The version that refuses to be disrespected. The version that stops rewarding bad behavior. The version that embodies dignity, confidence, and self-respect so strongly that people have no choice but to rise to your level or step aside. Your life will always expand or shrink to the level of your standards. Raise them. Protect them. Live by them. Because the moment you do, you stop asking for respect. You start commanding it. And when that happens, your entire world changes. This is your life. Don't just exist in it. Lead it. And let the standard you set be the one that transforms everything.